Hello everyone, it's Belladonna and Madam Weepsy again. We're going to do a little bit of talking about the early years of the great Stephen King.
I'm gonna scare the hell out of you. And that's a promise.
Number 1, The Dead Zone. Now, The Dead Zone is an earlier King work. It's a little bit different than a lot of his other works. There's not as many disturbing things like they go bump in the night. It's one that revolves around psychic powers. And I believe he was inspired by the true psychic Peter Herkos, who had fallen off a ladder and claimed to have psychic powers upon waking up.
I didn't ask for these powers.
So, this particular book, it's a really good one. I think I read this in one night when I was very young. I picked it up at a friend's house, and I couldn't put it down. I didn't even sleep. It was so good. It really is a compelling story. Very well written. The main character, is very likable. The villain is extremely unlikable and incredibly well done. And many people will know this particular story by a film that was done by it, a really good film. I believe even Mr. King likes this one. A film directed by the great David Cronenberg, Fly, Naked Lunch, that sort of thing, starring the great
I'm
Christopher
funky.
Walken.
I've always been funky.
And that particular film, a little bit dated by today's standards perhaps, but it sort of just nails the idea of this story. Walken, who is often known as being strange, really nails this nice guy role, and of course this bizarre psychic power that he receives. And you have Martin Sheen, the great Martin Sheen in this, playing the villain Grace Stilson. Now, if you can't read this and find all the parallels that exist nicely in the modern world, you're missing something. You'll see it as well in that movie. So there's also a miniseries made with Farmer Ted, Anthony Michael Hall, and it was really good, but they cancelled it. What are you going to do? So The Dead Zone is a very good early example of King's work. It's not about monsters that go bump in the night, but the monsters of the human variety. 2. Madam Weepsy's favorite, Cujo. Now, Cujo is a really good story. It's a very compelling story. It takes place in a very minor setting of a car, for the most part. Many people know this story. I'm probably not spoiling too much. But the idea, again, this is not exactly creatures that go bump in the night, or monsters, or clowns in sewers, as much as we love those. This is more about when nature goes wrong. A Saint Bernard, which is a very large dog, not like this one, gets bitten by a bat and becomes rabid and attacks a woman and her child where they are stuck in a Ford Pinto of all things. Now, that again, it's not creatures or anything, it's nature, when nature goes wrong, and how horrifying it can really be. And it's a very compelling story. I believe Mr. King said he didn't remember writing it so much due to all of the cocaine, but he's learned his lesson. Now again, there's a film version of this, of course, with little Danny Pintaro from Who's the Boss, and what's the woman's name, Dee something or other, who's like the mom in a bunch of movies like E.T., all that sort of thing. And really, even though the action of this film takes place largely around a car, it's very well done, very compelling. Now, I will say, I don't like the change in the ending in the film compared to the book. I will not say it, so just in case anyone hasn't seen it. So I'll leave you to make up your own mind. Cujo is another one, not exactly monsters in the sewer and things like that. It's something when the world goes wrong and what happens as a result, that even a loving puppy can become a nightmare. 3. Another one of Weepsy's favorites, Cycle of the Werewolf. Now this is a little bit different. This was written as more of like a trade paperback format, and it's done in the form of the monthly calendar. So it actually goes through this monthly cycle of the werewolf. It also has some lovely illustrations inside of it, which is not common in a lot of the different books. Now, this is a very fun story. It's a very quick read, as you can tell. Another one made into a film now, The Silver Bullet, it's called, not Cycle of the Werewolf. Alright, it's not the greatest film on earth. It's sort of crap, but I like it. It's good crap. You have one of the Coreys in there, where he was very young, Corey Haim, in a motorized wheelchair. Lots of fun. And of course, you have Gary Busey. Who doesn't love little Gary Busey? You love Gary Busey, don't you, Mr. Cooper? Gary Busey is a lot of fun. He's whacked out of his mind, I think, at any point in his life. But he brings a very bizarre kind of humor and fun to it. Now the werewolf is played by Mr. Everett McGill, who has been in many things, including many David Lynch films. Now you have Gary Busey's bizarre humor and quirkiness, and then Everett McGill's cold and chilling, terrifying character of a priest, a preacher, that becomes a werewolf. Now again, it's a little dated, this film, but the effects are quite beautiful. It's a lot of fun. It's not like high-rolling, awesome film adventure, but it's a good time, and this is a nice one that if you pick up is a very quick read, one you can read in just one setting. And now we're getting into the territory of monsters that go bump in the night. I think the illustrations of the werewolf are a little more exciting than the movie. The movie sort of looked like a teddy bear gone wrong. All the same, a very fun read. 4. Creepshow. Now Creepshow, anybody knows, is a lot of fun no matter how you're looking at it. This was written as a comic book. So you have this paperback here as a comic book. It was done in the style of the old EC comic books before there was a comics code, and they were really quite gritty, dirty, bloody, and nasty. Now this, of course, is the comic version written by Mr. King himself, and the art is by Bernie Wrightson, and the cover art is by Jack Kamen. You can see that. And of course it was made into a film by the wonderful George A. Romero of Night of the Living Dead fame. Now again, you could look at this film as being kind of dated, and that's fair enough, but it's a lot of fun. It's funny, it's disturbing, a lot of great people pop up in it. You have Leslie Nielsen, Ted Danson, a lot of great actors popping up in there. And the makeup effects again are quite wonderful. It's the type of horror film that has a sense of humor and yet still gets to you. I mean, read the one about, or watch the one, if you like, about the roaches and tell me you're not squirming in your seat. The artwork in this is really beautiful. It's just like the old comics, captures that spirit beautifully. And the film does too. Really just a lot of disgusting, disturbing 1980s horror movie fun by way of old school comic books. There's a sequel, of course, Creepshow 2. Not as good, but still fun. The one about the raft is pretty cool. I guess there's a show now where they're doing like Creepshow. I think I saw one episode. It didn't really grip me. You know, what are you going to do? But back in the day, if you get a nice copy of this, the Creepshow comic, if you like, this is very cool, a lot of fun, and it's a fun movie. What are you scared of? She's scared of the monster in the crate. I was scared of the monster in the crate. Every time I look at the damn picture, I'm still scared of the monster in the crate. Isn't that right? Yes, it is. And number 5, The Dark Half. Now, The Dark Half is interesting because, as you may know, Stephen King, for a short period, wrote under the pen name Richard Bachman. For his own reasons, I believe one may be that he wanted to see if his work would sell under a different name, and he just also wanted to try something different. And so he created his pseudonym, Richard Bachman, wrote a few books and stories under it, and they're quite good. And then, of course, some idiot exposed it. Rather than make an issue out of it, he embraced it and said, there I am, I'm Richard Bachman. But this particular story, The Dark Half, is sort of like his journey of a darker nature of Richard Bachman. You have a writer, of course, who is a good writer, but is a better writer when he's in his dark half. And it's a really wonderful story about, I think, not so much another personality, but how the creative mind doesn't necessarily split, but in its own way can be many different people, 2 different people, good and bad people even, who knows. Now, of course, there is a film version, another one I believe done by George Romero. It's not, again, like really great. It's pretty good, though. What really sells it is the actor Timothy Hutton playing both Thad Beaumont and George Stark, the light and the dark half, if you will. And Timothy Hutton's a wonderful actor. He's been in also the Stephen King film Secret Red Rover with Johnny Depp. I think if it weren't for him being in this, it might not have been as good, but his performance is worth a look alone. His George Stark is freaking awesome. So The Dark Half is a nice point in King's career where it reflects certain aspects of his life, and I believe at this point he was starting to come out of his own darker turn in life with addiction and whatnot. And I think there may be a lot of that in here. And it's a really great read. Not one of those giant ones that if we dropped it on Weeps it would kill her. It's a very good fun read. Great story. Fun movie to watch too. Definitely a good look into the 80s life of Stephen King. Well, everyone, I hope that you enjoyed our look into the little bit earlier works of Stephen King. If you've already read them, I'd love to hear your thoughts, and if you haven't read them, check them out, and then I'd love to hear your thoughts. I love Mr. Stephen King. I don't care what anybody says about it. I don't care what you say. I love it. And I am always looking forward to new works and revisiting the old ones. Thank you all for watching. Madam Weeps apparently wants to read one right now, don't you? All right, darling. Bye for now, everyone.
You're disturbing the peaceful mood I'm in. You are disturbing the peaceful frame of mind I'm in. You are disturbing my peaceful frame of mind.